He did say, he goes, if in a perfect world there is an NSYNC tour coming, then we can have another kid.
Ooh,
so,
geez, I said that's pressure, brother.
Man, what's happening, man? You got Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch,
Doug Hendrickson,
and Gavin Newsom, and you're listening to Politickin.
June on the beat. June on the beat.
Doug, here's a simple question I have for you. If you were governor, Dolores wants to know, if you were governor for a day, I want what's you got 24 hours, not just 9 to 5, none of that nonsense. You got one day, Doug. Change the what you're. And by the way, you're a governor and your legislature's out, so they can't get in your way. Just remember, it's multiple branches of government, and the courts have already given you a green light. So the three branches. So you're the sole decider on whatever it is that you think needs to change, or we need less of or more of. Give it to us, Doug.
Well, it's a two-part question, Gavin. But one, I'm going to say, obviously, less state taxes. Let's keep it at that.
Really?
Right? No state taxes.
None.
But no, okay. You know what I would do, honestly? I would. This sounds corny and stupid, but I've told you this before. I would go to every single mayor and I would say, this is not optional. This is mandatory. I want every one of you guys 1 day a month to do a cleanup of the neighborhoods in the city, and retrofit plants, flowers, clean up, trash, whole deal, and do a monthly community event where it brings all the community together. Alameda, whether it be Sacramento, whether it be Davis, Marin, you name it, and do a monthly event, a revolving kind of event to kind of bring everybody together and whatnot. Sounds stupid and corny, but nope. I'm all about clean up and hug it out a little bit and go from there.
I appreciate it. I just if this governor I read about, seemed to read about periodically, hadn't done that, called Clean California, and actually funded it with $1.1 billion and created quote unquote designated communities, meaning community partners that we partner with volunteer opportunities and job opportunities, including for people that are previously incarcerated, a part of a reentry program, and those that were previously unhoused, meaning homeless. Then I would say that's a novel and extraordinarily insightful idea.
See, here's the difference. You're right. And I took that from you. But however, I would tell them if they don't do it, they're fired.
That's the difference.
That's the difference. You did it. You did it. And that's where I got it from.
You're doing mandatory volunteering, which is kind of a different version of the word volunteer.
This isn't the buffet where you can decide what you want to do. This is like, you need to do this or else Doug, you're out.
Doug, the reason this is more resonant to me than you even think. It's one of the great frustrations with being governor of California is I'm not the mayor of California. And I've said this before on the pod, man, you've got 476 cities, 58 counties, you got city councils, you got school boards, you have all these independent electeds, you've got city administrators, you've got rules and regulations that govern a lot of things at the local level. So even putting up an unprecedented amount of money, creating an initiative, launching that initiative, we did it down in LA, galvanizing the community, getting thousands and thousands, not just of volunteers, but we hired thousands and thousands of people as part of this program. You're 100% right. There are communities that just said, nah, we're not interested. And instead just like to point the finger and say, see how dirty everything is, see how terrible everything is. Why? And there's a lot of this sort of victimization out there as opposed to people, to your point, stepping up and taking some responsibility and building community, which is what you're calling for, and getting people engaged. I love
funny.
that.
When I bought my first house in Ventura Hill back in like 2000, I'll never forget. I'm on this street and weeds would go in the cracks of the street. Right, the whole street up like 10 blocks, weeds, and it drove me crazy. I hate weeds, and so I would get up on Saturdays or whatever day, and I would pull all the weeds. And people up the street looked at me like, dude, what is this guy doing? I said, no, I live down the street. I don't like the weeds. So nobody helped out for the first probably 2 months. People looked at me like I was nuts. No BS. Every Saturday thereon, I was one of 30 people cleaning not only our street, but the surrounding blocks around Ventura Hill. And it was the coolest thing in the world. But people initially said, what's this guy doing? And then they said, you know what? Yeah, we feel better. It's a better street, better curb appeal. And it was pretty cool. But I did that back in 2000.
Doug, I love that. And by the way, we picked up not just on Clean California, which, by the way, we're going to be expanding and we're going to create some more accountability in the spirit of what you're calling for. But we also we have the I've said it before, but we have the largest volunteer corps in America. It's bigger than the Peace Corps. And a big part of the group is called Climate Corps, which is exactly along the lines of what you're saying. It's not just planning things, it's cleaning things as well. And it's infectious. And here's a proof point. You'll appreciate this. True story, Doug. We were out there on a little hike with the family, and I was with my little one, Dutch. And he sees me pick up some garbage, and it was kind of awkwardly sized. And I was like, oh God, I'll just carry this back. And he looked at me like, why are you picking that up? It was there on the trail. True story. About an hour later, I see him pick up a piece of garbage. He literally mirrored that behavior, which was just like amazing and point of pride. That's exactly what happened to you with your neighbors.
I love it.
I love it. No, we need more of that. And that's, by the way, that's how we get out of this rut and mess of everybody's so damn negative, all the cynicism, everybody's attacking each other, is shared experiences and getting neighbors to meet neighbors, not through political lens, but just through, sense of community and making things better. So I love the spirit of what you're saying. And hey, Dolores, thank you for the question.
Hey, Gavin, we got some great news. In the waiting room, we have a Mississippi kid. Yeah, and Gavin, I've been to Mississippi many times. We got a Mississippi kid.
I'm still trying to figure out how to spell Mississippi.
Mississippi. Yes, it is.
It's I. Someone said Y.
I did say I.
IPP,
It is I.
You said I.
But we have a Mississippi kid that made it big, and that is really cool. There's a couple of guys from Mississippi I know made it big, and that might be him, Lance Bass, along with his former partner, Justin Timberlake from Mississippi. They both made it big. Lance, how are you, my man?
What's going on?
How are you guys?
Where are you? At your fancy place. Where the hell are you, Lance?
I'm here at home in Los Angeles. You can see my Harry Potter candles up in the sky for Christmas. Halloween just left, and now Christmas is coming in.
Hey, Gavin, don't let Lance fool you. He sold 70 million albums. He's made a lot of money.
Oh, so you just want with little royalty with us today? Am I supposed to bow or something?
Luke Perlman took most of it, so
Well, that's you're already 5 questions in already, Lance. We'll talk about that, buddy.
Hey, Lance, before we begin, I want to tell you a little story back in the day. I met you back in the day. One of my clients was Jamal Anderson, the Dirty Bird. And so back in 2000, when you guys were the height of your fame and whatnot, doing the Super Bowl in Tampa, one of my first clients gave me tickets to the game. And before the game, he said, hey, can't wait to see you. And I said, great. Well, I'm at the hotel, and someone said, I'll give you $20,000 for these 2 tickets. So I'm like, great. I'm going to sell them for $20,000. I'm with my fiance, now wife, and I'm going to buy a couple of tickets for $5, make $15,000. Life is good.
And report it to the IRS, I hope, Doug, but that's another conversation.
Right.
Keep going.
So the prices kept going high on these tickets, so I could not buy 2 more tickets. So I got $20,000 in my pocket. I'm feeling good. And I'm like, I have to go to this game. I got my client, one of my first clients with Jamal back in 95, 96. I got to be at the game. So I go to the stadium, and I'm walking kind of around the perimeter and whatnot. And you guys, Britney Spears and Aerosmith were in like a holding area attached to the stadium. Remember, there was like an area you had to walk through. And all of a sudden I get to the gate, and I see you guys and Aerosmith or Britney Spears walking into the stadium. And I yelled your name and Justin's name. And I want to be honest, I think you turned around, and at that time the security guy said, like, you know them? I said, yes, I do. And the guy let me and my fiance into the stadium. So now we're in the holding area. As you guys are walking in, I jump right behind you guys, my wife and I, our fiance, and we go right in the stadium behind you guys and Aerosmith and go right into the stadium. And I snuck into the Super Bowl in 2000. It was a fantastic moment.
$20,000 richer. I think that is amazing. That's what I used to do at Disney or Universal. If you act like you're supposed to be there, they just kind of let you do what you want to do. Yeah.
100%.
By the way, Lance, you don't even know who you're dealing with. That guy with that Politickin shirt on right now literally doesn't even need. I'm surprised, Doug, you even needed a ticket, bro. I've seen this guy open up. I mean, if there was an Ocean's 14 or something, he should be the lead character. This guy he doesn't need a ticket. He BS's his place everywhere. We went to the impenetrable Super Bowl after 9/11. They said no one could ever get anywhere. I think you brought in 6 or 7 people without tickets. But Lance, I imagine you get bored. All these people taking advantage of you that don't even know you, act like they've known you all your life? How the hell do you even process listening to that nonsense from Doug?
I mean, it's fine. Look, I'm used to it, and I don't know. I enjoy the effort that people make. I think it's entertaining to me. I think it's so I'm like, look, if you can do your thing, go for it. Kudos to you, because I would do the same thing if I was in your shoes.
Lance, I mean, because it's just, your life's sort of been marked by, I mean, there's nothing normal about your damn life. And it happened when you were so young. I mean, relatively speaking, a kid. And so, I mean, erratically, do you reflect back seriously and just go, I can't take this anymore. I need some normalcy. I need to I wish this never happened. This journey is a little overwhelming. The attention, sort of the adoration, people like Doug stalking you, I'm seriously, have you gone through those sort of pity party moments where you're like, I can't take it?
Well, you go up and down for sure. I started at such a young age. I started with NSYNC when I was 16 years old. So I don't really know the difference anymore. And I was always great with, fame and being a public figure. Like I was one of those people that could just really deal with it in a very positive way. I know tons of people that they're just not that type of person. But it really wasn't until I had kids, recently in the last 3 years that, I do second guess. I'm like, God, it would just be really nice to be anonymous, going out with my kids, just really being able to do things with them without people coming up and confusing them. I love, meeting people. I love the fans out there, but there are some days where, it would just be nice just to be just you and actually just remember who you were before all this happened.
Did you have any of that during COVID? I mean, it's a bunch of folks that I know that, recognizable folks. They said they missed the COVID days just for the masking. Everyone's masked and it could be anonymous and they can show up, go to grocery store and just feel alive.
It was great. It really is. That's why I've always loved Halloween every year. Halloween is that is my favorite day of the year because you can go around and no one knows who the hell you are. It is amazing. And yes, I did thrive during the COVID years because of the mask. Flying, that's the big thing. Because, when you go to the airports and then there's just cameras in your face, all that, it's just annoying, especially when you've been flying for 12 hours and you just want to get home. That mask really helped a lot. You could just disappear. And I still, to this day, even if I'm not sick or anything, I will wear a mask at the airport. I'll be that guy.
Well, Lance, let me ask you a question, taking you back to those Mississippi days and your humble beginnings. And then you get into NSYNC. And by the way, the Lou Pearlman thing I'm going to get to because obviously that documentary I saw recently on him was fascinating. And as a sports agent, which I am now, watching you during that time as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid in those heydays, number one, like with Lou, you guys were probably just like, oh my God, we became, started out and all of a sudden next we're like selling out arenas, insane stuff. With Lou Pearlman, in terms of what he did your family or your parents or did anybody kind of have any idea what was going on as far as the contracts you guys signed and all that? Or was it pretty much like, we don't care, we've made it, we're good, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, what did we sign?
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't know what you don't know. We were all very young and ignorant to the business. I didn't know anything about the music business. When you're a teenager, you're just thinking, wow, I just want to be an artist. And this would be so much fun to do. You're not thinking of, the business part of it. And especially your parents didn't know anything like that. I mean, my mom's right here helping me prep for my Thanksgiving dinner. It's just a school teacher from Mississippi. What does she know about the music industry? You just have to trust people. And, when you're young, you trust a lot of people and people like Lou Pearlman, who was the president of my label and our manager and the sixth member of NSYNC, and he was taking about 6 different cuts. You thought he was family, so you always just believed everything he said, and that he was going to take care of you. So we ignorantly just believed in someone. It taught us a lot of lessons. I'm in a weird way glad we went through that at an early age, because no one's ever going to take advantage of me like that again. And I became a great businessman after that. So, as much as he took from us, he gave me a lot. And I think I was able to, create something and a great career, despite what he was trying to take from us.
And when was the reflection moment? Did one of you guys in particular say, hey guys, we're getting screwed? Or what was the reflection moment where you said, oh my God, something's not right?
Yeah. I was always the one that kind of was the business minded one. So I knew something was weird after a few years of having sold out tours, selling merch like no other, and we still hadn't gotten paid. We were just living on per diem, which as a kid, I'm like, wow, $40 a day, that's incredible. Like this is more money than I've ever made. But then after, making the label millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, you're like, okay, so at what point have we paid our dues? Like, what is that? And it was a specific moment where we were getting our first check presentation, because a lot of people don't realize we're a German band. We're signed with Munich. And so the president of our label in Germany came over to Los Angeles to present us a check. I think it was at Lowry's, in La Cienega. And we had my parents there, all the families, and Lou Pearlman was so excited to present us this check. And I didn't know, after 4 years of being one of the biggest bands in the world, I didn't know what that was going to be, but I had in my mind, like, is it $500,000? I mean, I'd be happy with $250,000. Like, I'm just like, what? I'm not actually going to be able to buy a car. Like, I'll be able to have transportation. And he presented us a check, and it was $10,000 each.
Ooh, man.
And, I grew up very humble, and that is a lot of money for a lot of people. But when you work for free every day, 24/7, you deserve more than that. And I just knew at that moment, like, something's really wrong, that he is proud of that. Like, he is so proud to give us that little bitty check. And I could look at the president of the label, and his face was kind of like, oh Lord, he knew he was in the wrong. And eventually he would tell me, he's like, look, you don't understand how much I have to pay Lou Pearlman in order to give y'all pennies. And that's when I started learning how the business worked, how contracts worked. And even then, I didn't even want to tear up our contract. I just wanted to renegotiate. And he wasn't having it. There was no renegotiation. And that's when we left him, and he sued us, and all that went down. But, it all ended up great.
Well, it's funny, Gavin. It's almost on we did Demi Lovato, that bill you passed. I mean, again, these guys getting taken advantage of back then is sort of similar to the Lovato bill you passed recently.
Yeah, Lance, we did that bill. You got a lot of folks under, younger than 18, and in some cases, and I obviously your mom's right there, so this wasn't the case in your household, but a lot of parents are taking the money, even if they're receiving the money, and they never get that money back. So the idea of setting aside those resources now is mandated. And it's not just for folks in your industry, but for folks in the creator industry as well, with YouTube and everywhere else, where a lot of that exploitation is occurring.
It's so necessary. And, thank you for, doing that. But it's so sad how taken advantage of these kids still are. Even, it doesn't matter what we pass and how many lessons we give everyone, how many documentaries we put out there, people are still going to sign that horrible contract, because it's either that or nothing. And everyone thinks, okay, it might be a horrible contract now, and I might be taken advantage of, but I can fix that. And it's just so sad that we even have to, to do that.
Well, Lance, with social media now, you guys didn't have it back then, but do you kind of cringe now when you see these young guys and all the content and the social media? If you had it, imagine social media in sync. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, do you kind of like, God, I need to have seminars and educate some of these younger kids, because it's getting crazy right now, correct? But can you think back to your childhood and what advice you'd give these young kids now?
Yeah, I mean, look, find an incredible entertainment lawyer. And that is so key, an entertainment lawyer. And, that helps right there. Always, it's good to trust people, but always keep that one eye out. And always have just a great group of people around you. If it's family, and again, family can take advantage of you. If it's, close friends, but you have to trust someone, and let them kind of, guide you through this. But everyone's been through everything. So there's a lot of great examples, any kind of social media person out there, like, look at someone that's been doing what you're trying to do, and go see what they did, see the people that they've surrounded themselves with, who are they working with, and start there.
But Lance, for you, was that a path you paved yourself? I mean, because you made your point. I mean, that your career, what you've been able to do with that experience, and how you use that to actually empower you, and how you've not just survived, but you continue to thrive. Did you have those mentors along the lines, or was this iteration for you? You're figuring it out along the way.
Yeah, I kind of had to figure it out on my own. I didn't really have many mentors, especially in business. So it was a lot of trial and error. I put my hands on a lot of things after NSYNC. I had a lot of interests. I'm from restaurants to, music, television, film. Just all over the place. And, a majority of them completely failures. But every time that I would fail, I would learn more things. And so I enjoy, failing. Because it just makes you a better person. And then you start to figure out exactly what you're meant to do. And I feel like finally at 45, I know exactly what I want to do and what I'm supposed to do right now.
By the way, reminded of, there's a great Winston Churchill quote, said the secret of all success, Churchill. So you kind of pay attention. Secret of all success is moving from failure to failure with enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Mistakes are a portal of discovery. I dig that. But all right. So it begs the damn question, man. You're an old man now, and you just figured out what you really want to be when you grow up. So what is it? What is it?
Well, my kids kind of changed that for me. My whole life has just been entertainment. It's like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what, everyone wants me to do. And I do enjoy it. But I figured out I like other things even better. I'm a creative person, so I don't have to be in front of the camera. I love being able to write and produce behind the scenes. But I also love real estate. Like I really love, real estate, which I'm really getting heavily into right now. And with that, I like things that I can control. I don't like being a part of anything that people can tell you no. And that is entertainment. You get told no 99% of the time. You see people in this industry that get to decide, and you work on a project for 4 years and you work so hard on it and spend so much money. And then they're finally like, yeah, nah, not right now. That won't work. And you're like, okay, I just wasted all that time. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be the boss. I want to tell myself yes and be my own boss. And that's the path that I'm taking. And especially with my kids, it's more in the family friendly atmosphere right now. I'm doing, children's books and children's film and television. And that just makes me just happier because I get to create what I want to do. I get to release it when I want to. And that's what I love about the social media world too. No one can tell me no. If I want to make, a fun little skit, I'm going to put it up, and it's up in 24 hours. And there you go. And then millions of people get to see it. And more people than would watch a TV show that I spent 3 years developing, and then 500,000 people see it. Like I can get those many people to see my one little video in 24 hours. And I feel just as fulfilled.
On the flip side of that, was there one indelible no that you think shaped most? I mean, when you look back, you're still, it's burning inside you that sort of has driven most of your, just sort of shift of consciousness. Was there some truly devastating, it's teed up, some rejection that just stings even to this day?
I mean, there's been a lot of, great rejections, but, I won't specifically say the show, but, I was up for a really great hosting gig that would have really changed my life. And I was so excited for the opportunity, and I really thought that this could be, my future, and I ended up not getting it. And it really derailed me for a while. I'm like, okay, if I didn't get that, like now what is next? Now I gotta, it's like starting over all over again. And I was just so tired. I'm like, I don't want to start over again and start paying my dues again. And that was really when I started looking at, why am I even trying so hard in this entertainment industry to please everyone? Let's just start doing things that I want to do and that I feel creative with. And again, that no one can say no to. I get
Amen. Well, let me ask a question. In the heyday of NSYNC, when Justin decided to pull away, when you guys were there, did you sit back? Were you too young to realize like thinking maybe he's going to go do some solo stuff and then come back? And then how was your mentals when he pulled away and then kind of NSYNC kind of, it went away initially after the next couple of years? Were you like, oh my God, like we're killing it. We're on top of the world. Now it's gone. Or what was your mindset back then?
I was confused for sure. I mean, again, I was such a young person, and all I knew was NSYNC. That was my life. There was no Lance Bass. There was just Lance of NSYNC. And so that was my world, and I was happy that was my world. I thought that was going to be my world the rest of my life. I didn't think that there'd be anything different, ignorantly. So when, we decided that the group was no longer, it was very confusing for me because I didn't know where I belonged, and I wasn't really setting myself up for success because I was just waiting, because I was told by the label, and everyone's like, oh no, we just need 3 more months. Oh, we just need, 5 more months. I'm like, okay. And I was turning down sitcoms and like work that I could have like really done to establish me as a solo person. But I didn't, I was just waiting because I was waiting for my group. So when it didn't happen, I was very disappointed. I was disappointed more in myself because I stupidly just kind of sat back and just thought, oh, well, this is just going to be waiting for me, and let me just go have fun. And well, also I was in the closet at the time, so I was kind of finding myself. So it was a good timing to have a little downtime. But by the time that I got back up and, out, and the group was over, I was left with nothing and not knowing exactly where I was supposed to be. So it took a while to figure out who I was and where I needed to go. But it was a big life lesson. And again, I learned at an early age. So I'm glad I got to do that.
Well, Lance, that begs the question for our listeners out there. By the way, I just went to the Sphere and I saw the Eagles, and I remember when they had their press conference, when hell freezes over, we're coming back. Everybody wants to know, when is NSYNC coming back for this reunion? Because this is going to be the biggest thing in the world. You've gotten
this question, Lance.
It is. First time. No one has ever asked me that.
I know. So just you got to.
But you can tell us the truth. You can tell us the truth of what's the first date.
It's been great. The last 2 years have been great for the group because we haven't done anything in 2 decades, but we got together to do the Trolls movie together. And then all of a sudden Deadpool uses Bye Bye Bye. And it's just something's in the air right now with our group, and our fans have kind of going a little nuts. And the younger generation, this Gen Z, has now like figured out who we are, although they think we're the Deadpool group, but I'm totally fine with that. So there's definitely something in the air that we're trying to figure out. Justin's on tour for the next 6 months. He's been, extending his tour. So obviously there's nothing we could do until that's done, but we're definitely, discussing what the future could hold and what we could do. But, fingers crossed, we give the fans a little something. I would enjoy that. I would just like my kids to be able to see me do something. So, I don't know, like, you're in a band, sure. Like, I'm gonna
sure, Dad. Yeah, sure, Dad.
Yeah. By the way, Doug, that sounds like they're gonna make a surprise appearance at the Super Bowl. That's what I just heard. And then release an album right after that they've been quietly working on.
You're only going to be able to sneak in.
Exactly. You're not invited. But by the way, just, it's interesting, it's funny, sort of generations to rediscover, and it takes sort of a good time. I love the Deadpool frame, right? That all of a sudden now you kind of, people that may not have, they may have heard your music, but never really identified all the energy around that music. That's got to be, I mean, in so many ways, to sort of see these points of your career that get you just reintroduced and re-energized over and over and over again.
It is great, and it's just nice to see that, some of our songs, stand the test of time. I mean, even those dance moves, kids come, I mean, there's little kids now, 8, 9 years old that come up to me in public and they just love it. They love the songs. They especially love the dance, of course, because it's now in Minecraft. I think we're cooler now than we were back then. Back then it was kind of embarrassing to like a boy band, but now I don't know, this younger generation they accept it. They love it. So I'm very appreciative.
And Lance, let me ask you a question. And I applaud, Gavin and I have been brothers and family for 30 years. And our unfortunate co-host Marshawn is not here right now. He's actually flying back from, I believe, a movie he's doing. But in any event, like I applauded Gavin the other day on the show, and he talked about a story about his dad when he was the first mayor that implemented gay marriage. When was that, Gavin? What was that, 2004?
We were kids, black and white movie days, 2004, okay. The winter of love, Lance, 4,036 couples from 46 states. And, but it is, it's interesting. I know where Doug's going with this, man. It's, here you are talking about a boy band and sort of iconic and you guys are peaking and everything else, and you're struggling with your own identity. And then I imagine struggling moreover with how you express that. And then how does that impact not just you, mom, dad, your family, your relationships, but how does that impact your reputation, your career? How does it impact your colleagues? And I mean, all that going through your head, but you eventually did it in a pretty profound and consequential way. You did it, you went big and bold. But was that a multi-year process of just trying to figure that out, man? Or just, it was a moment you said, I've had it?
I mean, it was definitely a whole life process of, trying to figure out who I was. I mean, I knew I was gay since I was, 5 years old. So like, I knew that, that was a part of me, but I also knew at a young age that was something I was going to have to hide my whole entire life, because
really thought that
it was dangerous, especially growing up in a state like Mississippi, where there's not one gay person, not one out person at all, because it, again, was dangerous. You just always heard of people being murdered because of that. And, growing up in the churches, it was caused by the devil. You're going to hell. As a very religious person growing up, I wanted to do everything I could not to go burn in hell. And so it was that I repressed and I was so scared of, and I would cry every night to pray. I would pray, please wake up not being gay. Please wake up being attracted to girls. Which is like a sad to put on a little kid. And so, and then being God's little joke of putting me in a boy band where 99% of your fans are females. Yeah, right. You're living this life and like, okay, this is gonna be fun. And it's right when you're, coming of age and you're first dating for the first time. And then your best friends in the group are having girlfriends. I'm like, oh Lord, I'm going to have to deal with this. I'm really going to have to deal with this. And I'm in like the most public person in the world right now. Like, how am I supposed to deal with this? And, you would date girls and you'd have girlfriends and you would trick yourself into thinking this is what love is, right? This is what it feels like. And I thought I loved these girls that I, dated. And then you just wake up one day, you're like, no, this is not it. And it was at a time, that was 2006. So it was getting a little easier to be more vocal about who you are. We were fighting for marriage equality. So you had a lot of people, you just saw people fighting for you. And you're like, okay, I don't feel as alone. And then you started seeing people come out that you knew, and in the business, there weren't many people, even Ellen hadn't even come out at that point. Yeah. So, the decision to come out on the cover of People magazine was, it was a scary one. I didn't really have a choice. That was kind of a Band-Aid being ripped off because I was outed by the press. So they gave me basically 24 hours. Like, look, wow, we know the story. We know you're gay. We're going to write it. But would you like to do it with us so we get the story right, or just let us make it up? And I'm like,
but that wasn't People magazine themselves.
No, that was not People.
But you pivoted there.
Yeah. Exactly. I trusted that they would be better at telling the story. And so I had 24 hours to tell my story. And then it was on the stands, the next day. And it was a crazy, scary situation, because all the examples I've ever had of anyone coming out, especially in entertainment, was that it's a career killer. You're dead. Everything, your career's over. People are going to hate you. Your church has now kicked you out. Your family hates you. Just every negative thing you could think about is going to happen. And it went opposite. It was the first time I ever saw. And I remember I went to Catalina Island and I was like, you know what? I'm going to disappear. I don't even want to see what's happening. I don't want to see the sound bites on the shows. I don't want to see Jay Leno. I don't want to see any of them people making fun of me, because one, I was embarrassed for the gay community. I didn't want them to be like, oh God, like now we're embarrassed. Like now they're going to be making fun of this guy. And we've come so far. And now we're going to go back further just because now they have someone as a punching bag. And so, but it didn't happen that way. Once I came up for air and I saw how people were taking it, it was such a positive take on everything. And the main thing I took away was everyone like, who cares? Like, why do people care now? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. This is wow. This is so incredible. The career definitely changed, and they were right about that. Like, it was definitely a career killer. But not too long after that, I just saw a lot of success stories in entertainment, and I love that. I mean, I love being able to turn on the radio and hear so many LGBTQIA artists, incredible actors. I mean, it's actually a good thing to be yourself these days. I think if you're kind of hiding yourself and you're closeted, that it's harder to have a career in this business.
But Lance, you said it was a career killer. I mean, what happened? If people, they weren't returning calls or just saying, "Oh, that's for straight people." You got hit between the eyes on that, huh?
Yeah, because I was, I would definitely had pivoted into television at that point, and I was going into a talk show, but I was also doing acting. I had a sitcom, with the CW at the time, and we were about to shoot the pilot, and this came out, and they were like, "We can't do the show anymore." Like they believe that you're straight to play a straight character, and I'm like, okay. So like, and every casting director I knew, they're like, "Lance, we can't cast you because they can't look past." You're too famous for being gay now that they can't look at you as anything other than that. So I lost everything, agents, everything, everyone just kind of fell off. Like, I don't know what we can do with you now. And so, I had to completely just restart and rebrand at that moment.
Did you rekindle any of the relationships you had with the people? Like you said, agents left you and this and that. Did you rekindle any of that, or like have any conversations since then? The guy's like, "Dude, I'm sorry, I fucked up." Like, any of that, or how was that?
A lot of the casting directors, for sure, they're all kind of like, "Yeah, that was really dumb," and they've actually cast me in a lot of things since, which is really funny and ironic. But I never hold grudges at all. Like, I'm very understanding. Look, I get it. Business is business is business. It sucks. But I never can hold grudges. So even if you piss me off and do something horrible to me, I'm always going to be friends again. That's kind of like a downfall of mine.
So Lance says, I have 3 kids, Gavin has 4. And you said you knew at 5. So take me through your, it had to be, and seeing my kids struggle with anything, just whatever it may be, but how did you get through those years where you're like, you know what, this is what I am, whatever. And with no one knowing, and living in a state like Mississippi, you said, where people get killed for this stuff. How did you function and get through? Did you just keep yourself busy and keep active and whatnot? Or how did you make it through those 10, 11, 12, 13 years?
Yeah, I mean, you basically ignore it. And you keep yourself very busy. You turn into a character. You're always trying to, you hear little things, I remember hearing when I was a kid, if someone says "so" a lot when they're, talking, it's like, "Oh, it's so sunny outside." That means gay. So I would catch myself using the word "so." I'm like, So you would change how you spoke at a young age. And that's what you would kind of think about. Like, I can't be seen. Even drinking a glass, if your finger goes up, you're gay. If your eyeballs go up and not into the cup, you're gay. It's those and even in school we would do the gay test. There was all these little tests you would do, and it was just so scary. I'm like, they're gonna figure me out, which is so ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of put it out of mind. Although it was almost impossible when those things would come up, like the gay test. But yeah, you just really hyper focus on keeping yourself busy. I was always trying to entertain. I was always the comedian, always. And I feel like that's a lot of the case with entertainers. You always go to comedy when you're closeted. And I definitely went the comedy route with all my friends.
Lance, how do you feel today? I mean, with all the progress, and I appreciate sort of that promoted progress in the 2000s, and obviously with the big Supreme Court decision, and feeling like we're on the other side of a lot of that bigotry and a lot of that misunderstanding and hate. Are you feeling like the last few years there's sort of that pendulum sort of swung back, particularly against the trans community, but even more broadly with all of these book bans that are going on that don't quote unquote say gay bill in Florida, and everything with criminalizing speech in the boardroom, not just in the classroom, threatening firing teachers and librarians if they check out the wrong book that often has LGBTQ themes. I mean, what's your sense of where the hell we are right now?
Well, you're right. The pendulum swings, and it went this way, and it's got so we always know we're going to deal with that. But yes, I feel like we are going a little backwards right now. We are definitely entering an era where people are emboldened to hate. And the LGBTQIA community has always been the scapegoat. It's just the easy one because people don't, if you don't know a gay person, if you're not gay, you just you don't get it. So it's easy to hate someone like that, especially when you have, a book like the Bible that they pretend says that you're supposed to not like, gay people, which it doesn't say. I've read it many times. And it's just, ignorance prevails in this country, unfortunately. And, even things like trying to take IVF away. They're only trying to take IVF away just because of the gay community, not because straight people are actually using this and use it way more than the gay community, but they're trying to give it to us. They're trying to give voters a reason to vote a certain way. And they always use our community for it, and they always one, pedophiles. They'll make me a pedophile just because I'm gay. Immediately I'm a pedophile. I'm like, how does that relate? Why don't you go to the churches and see what the pedophiles exist? But it's something that we're used to. We're always going to have to fight. But I think, the next few years is going to be, a struggle, but we've been here before. The good thing is things don't change overnight. It just doesn't. And that's what gives me a little peace. I'm old enough to be like, pretty much everything is just bullshit. Like everything's just so BS and everyone's just like doing this to make their agenda happen, but like nothing really changes overnight. So that makes me be able to sleep at night, that we can, I'm aware of what's going on, but I'm not going to hyper focus on the craziness that has happened. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to enjoy my family. I'm going to do the right thing and support the right people. But I'm not going to wake up every morning and just worry about the doom and gloom of the world, because, ultimately we're going to survive and we're going to be good and things are better and things are only going to get better. And I find peace in that.
Well, by the way, Lance, I appreciate you saying that because that's so true. And everybody lives that way. Like me and Gavin always talk about, we're in a better spot. And it seems, Lance, you're in the height of where you were back in the day, but right now you seem like you're in an incredible spot with your mentals. You got a great husband, you got great kids, you got great things going on. Do we have more kids coming for you guys soon? Do we have a bigger family than the two? What do we got going?
Who do you ask? Yeah, it's I would love a couple more. Like I've always dreamt of a big family. My husband's kind of like, I think we're good. We're good. He did say, he goes, if in a perfect world there is an NSYNC tour coming, then we can have another kid.
Ooh, so Jesus, so that's pressure, brother.
Wow.
That's why I'm trying to make this happen. So I'm like, okay, like I would love an NSYNC tour, but it means I get to have another kid. So I want it more than the fans. Okay.
Well, never forget. I have three and I never forget. I'm taking a nap and my wife comes down and I look at her and I'm like, I go, pregnant? And I'm like, and I never forget it. And then Gavin wanted to one up me and have four. And I thought he was nuts.
But I was set up. Best thing that ever happened to me, of course, is little Dutch is like you can't make this stuff up, right? I mean, nothing's by accident. It was what a gift. So you got it, Lance, man. I'm telling you, but two is you don't even know.
You're not even a parent at two, Lance. You're not even a parent. You guys aren't even parents right now. You got to have at least 3 or 4. You don't even know what it's like.
Yeah, your parents still come home. They want to take care of the kids. You get to 3, 4. They're like, sorry, honey, mom and dad were unavailable. Can't get babysitters. You got to change the car. You can't get reservations because all of a sudden it's a 5 top 6. Your whole life, brother. You got to prepare.
That's what I always said too. I mean, I like even, right? So if I have one, that would, when you go to Disney, you got to be in pairs. So I'd have to have 2 more in order to like everything to be equal. Yeah, but
2 plus 2 is 16. Trust me, I got 4. So it's I'm just saying this tour better be a lucrative one for you, buddy.
I've always loved the idea. We do have some embryos left, so like of course if we had kids, I would use those. But I always love the idea of adopting. I think adoption's been something that I've always dreamt of doing. There's so many kids out there that need loving homes, and maybe in the future when my kids are older, I'd be able to, adopt, a 10-year-old or, someone like a little older. That's a little, harder. And that will be, at least they're out of diapers, right? That's the problem. Diapers is we're almost out of diapers, and I can't even imagine going back through that again. But that's the only thing deterring me from having one right now.
Doug doesn't remember the diaper days. He's worried about his tomorrows, different kind of diapers, Doug.
I remember the diapers.
At your age, brother.
I'm not, but by the way, Gavin, let's for the record, you're a year older than me, partner.
All
so
right,
I'm young.
Right, I shouldn't look in the mirror.
Hey, but Lance, let me ask a question. As a parent now, and what you've gone through in terms of your career, do you want them into show business? Do you want them into entertainment, or what's your thoughts?
I mean, in a perfect world, no. I mean, in front of the camera, I would say no. I mean, be a writer, produce, great, yeah. But I think, especially this, being a public figure back in my day compared to now, it's just so much more pressure. It can be very vile because everyone has a microphone, to give their own opinion. And not only do people give opinions, but bots give opinions and troll farms, which create a culture of, the pitchfork mentality of like, yeah, that's right, bandwagon. It's just scary. I've had to change all my social stuff to only people that follow me are able to comment, because just the vile things that I just can't not see. And even about my kids, that's where it really hurts. You're like, how could you say that about a 3-year-old just because you hate that I'm gay or just who I voted for? Like, just that's just crazy. Sick. So I would not want that. I would not wish that upon my kids to have to deal with that, because even if you have a thick skin, it's still going to penetrate. You're still going to hear some of those things. So, I keep trying to. You're not supposed to push your kids in certain areas, but I'm like, wouldn't you like to be a vet? Like an animal doctor sounds great, right? Like twin vets, you could have your own little
twin vets.
Like how great would that be?
And of course, my immediate thing is, I got a TV show for that. Let's do twin vets. I got to go Bravo.
But then my daughter, she's been seeing me on TV lately, and now, she gets it. She's like, oh, you're on TV. You have your friends, your NSYNC friends. But she told me the other day, she's like, I want to be on TV. And I was like,
you do, brother. No chance.
Lance, let me pivot to your space stuff right now. I'm curious. Because Gavin, as the governor.
What about astronaut? You said everything, but not astronaut.
I'm getting to my question, Gavin. But, Gavin is as the governor, as the 5th largest economy in the world. I was tease Gavin. Why has there not been another guy in the moon, Lance, since 1968? What's going on?
Doug doesn't believe it ever happened. He's one of those guys. He thinks it's staged.
It definitely
like some studio in LA.
No, trust me, when I went to Russia and I trained, I asked all the questions, because every single person I trained with over there, they're the ones who put, Yuri Gagarin in space. It's the same exact people. So they had been there, they've seen it, they've done it. So of course I asked every question I could, and I am very confident we've definitely been up there. And we haven't been to the moon in many, many, many years because there's no reason to go to the moon. But I do feel that recently we are going to, at least build a base there. The ISS is very finite. It's going to be coming down soon. So we do need a place to go and, have a base, do our experiments. A lot of people don't understand why we even go up there. But I mean, the things that we have created and, inspired by being able to go there is just help this planet. And of course, this planet is finite. So we have to start figuring out, okay, how do we live off of this earth? And it's going to take us many, many, hundreds of years to figure this out. But, we have to start now. And you'll always support the space program. I'm still heavily, involved with it. And I'm happy to see that it has gotten, privatized, because I think, as Gavin, that when the government gets involved, it's almost impossible to get things done very quickly. So I'm glad that we are, going light years faster than we were before. And if my kids want to become astronauts, I would definitely be a yes for that.
And are you a yes? Are you going to do Blue Origin? You're going to do Virgin Galactic? You're going to do one of those?
I would. I think it'd be fun. It's like a roller coaster for sure. My goal was to, I was going up there living on the ISS for 10 days. I was doing environmental studies. I was doing blood work studies. So, I wasn't going up there just for fun. I was going up there to inspire a younger generation to go into math and science and, and look up instead of down on your phone. And I'm glad that, people are excited, about it. But if I go, I want to go on a real mission. I really want to, I'm certified. I'm ready to go. I still have my flight suit still fits me. Let's do this. But, if they wanted me to just jump on a rocket and go to space and take great pictures, I'd do that too, but I'm not going to pay for it. I would never pay. I went through so much. There's no way I would pay a dime to go to space. So if anyone wants to throw me on there, sure, I'll take a free ticket.
Hey, Doug, years ago, I did one of that what is it? Was it zero gravity or something? The parabolic, next level. That was unbelievable. You obviously, it's part of your training, right? You do that a lot, no?
Yeah. I mean, we train on that a lot, and it's such an incredible feeling. Just that alone, you're like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, I remember my first parabolic flight because, Russia likes to really test you and see if you freak out in moments. And I remember Mark Shuttleworth, the first African in space, he was the one right before me, and he was giving me the lowdown. He's like, look, they're going to wake you up at 3 a.m, yelling fire in Russian and like just seeing how you freak out. So the whole time I'm thinking, okay, they're testing me. So of course, my first parabolic flight, the plane starts going down and like we have to put our parachutes on, which is static. I've never jumped out of a plane before. The plane, goes up like this. They're pushing tourists out because, Russia doesn't have enough money. So they have to have tourists on their flights. They're pushing these tourists out. And I realize this is real. And I get right to the edge and like, okay, we got it. We're good. And then we continue the lesson. And I'm like,
oh, man.
I think that was just just to see if I freaked out. And they didn't care that they just threw tourists out over Siberia. I have no idea.
They had parachutes on, obviously.
Oh, yeah. It was a static line. Yeah.
Okay, Jesus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that ain't gonna work for me. Nothing about that works for me.
Well, Lance, Gavin would go up. I'm afraid of heights, man. Like I can't. We climbed the Bay Bridge one time, and I almost had a panic attack and an anxiety attack. But Gavin would definitely go up.
But that's way scarier than going up to space or even doing skydiving. Like you're so far up that there is no height. You don't feel that, scared. It's
Doug, these parabolic flights are next level. My wife, because she was the smallest one of the group, we got her in a little ball and we would throw her from one side of the airplane to the other, and just drinking the water and the M&Ms up in the air, doing push-ups where you just do one push-up and you're sort of flung to the ceiling. It was an experience of a lifetime. But it's going to space. But it's interesting. I appreciate, this proves you're like the real deal, that you're not into sort of that touristy space thing. You're not into. I'm
glad people are doing it. It pays for what we're trying to do with the real experiments. But and it would be so fun just to be able to see Earth from that view. Yeah. I remember my friend Ed Liu, who was going to be on the station with me. My experiments got to the ISS a week before I did, and my clothes were up there. So he found my flight suit on the ISS, and he ripped the name tag off and floated it in front of Earth and took a picture and actually snuck down, which he's not supposed to do, but snuck down the patch. So I still have it framed in my office. And it's just that alone, seeing my name floating in front of Earth is just like, I feel like I was there. It's just so beautiful.
That's very cool. Lance, you've lived a blessed life, man. You really have, man. And look, I really admire where you came from and where you've been, and you've lived an incredible journey, and you got a long way to go, man. But it's very cool to see what you've done and success you've had, and you've got so many things you're cooking on and whatnot, and the sky's the limit for you, bro. I've always been a huge fan of yours, loved what you're all about, love the story you told us today, the honesty about everything you've done, and it's really cool to see your journey and where you're going, man. And by the way, when you're on tour with NSYNC, I'm going to send you one of these Politickin hoodies you're going to wear on stage, and we're going to get that thing going.
As long as you can sneak in and find me.
Oh, but Jesus, too easy.
I will sneak in.
No, but seriously, y'all obviously are great inspirations, and I really look up to you guys too. So thank you for all you've done just to inspire people like me.
I appreciate it, Lance. Thank you, brother. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for everything you're doing, and thanks for being out there on so many damn causes, brother. It's always great to see you on the road.
Definitely. Give Jennifer my love. Mwah.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Lance.
All right. Talk to you later.
Hey, Doug, tell us where people can email us. Folks that are listening and want to ask us any questions, how do they email us?
Well, by the way, Gavin, we've got some incredible questions. We've had too many to even read. But if you do want to send us questions, it's Politickin at iHeartRadio.com. That's Politickin at iHeartRadio.com. Keep them coming.